I still today can't, you know, can't believe some of the experiences that I got to have. Like, I tell the best way for me to describe it in sum is like being in the design center in Borgo Panigale amongst half a dozen people once a year, a couple times a year, having the designers, the engineers, the CEO in the room with you, asking you what you think of a motorcycle that's supposed to come out like 4 years later. And I'm like, how did I get here? Like,
Yeah.
what do I owe this privilege that I've been given? But yeah, it's been an incredible experience, man. And so Ducati, ultimately, I became the marketing director for North America.
Today on the podcast, we have a very dear friend and an absolute rock star in our industry, Arrick Maurice. He is the Chief Growth Officer for Bikeshed, and he has been kind of shaping some of the world's most influential automotive and power sports brands for over 2 decades now. Starting with Ducati, he was the head of marketing for Ducati North America. He then moved on to Ferrari before then moving to Rivian and then into Harley Davidson. I mean, this guy, he is the guy who has created so much of the image and story and culture that kind of encapsulates those incredible brands. And so to have him on the show has meant a lot. We talk about not just his journey throughout his career and the experiences that come along with that. We talk about his new podcast that is also coming out. So go watch that episode or listen to that episode as well. It was absolutely incredible. In this, we also we discuss kind of what the Bikeshed is. How important it is for the success of the power sports industry and how it is this kind of community hub that supports the existence of everything else that we have. You know, it needs to be a reason to go out and ride, a reason to join a community and do all that. And if the dealer can't pull it off, there's got to be somebody who could do it really well. And the Bikeshed is absolutely that. I'm sure those guys are over the moon excited to have Arrick on their team, and just like we were so excited to be able to talk to him on this show. So please share, like, subscribe, follow, do all that. Go follow his podcast as well. This first episode just got dropped. And if you would like to be on the show, if you'd like to sponsor the show, please reach out to dealerlab@onex.io. But enjoy this incredible episode. Start to our conversation. We're 32, 33. I think you're episode 33 you'll be. We're 33 episodes into this. We're still figuring it out. We have no idea what we're doing, but we're learning it. You just posted your first, and it was incredible. Like, immediately, the production quality was great. The conversation was great. The editing was great. And then you had, like, honestly, the one person that if I saw this person at a motorcycle event, I would be like, he's the only guy I'd be like starstruck and like, oh, like I like wouldn't know what to say when I saw him. And that's Maxwell Hazan. I mean, he is incredible.
Unreal.
So for your first, and granted, I know Bikeshed or Shed Talk's been going on before, but your first Shed Talk, which is I think a new format you're going to be doing now, is out of this world. So please, let's start off with your episode with Maxwell Hazan on Shed Talk.
Yeah, so I joined Bikeshed a few months ago, and Bikeshed honestly was rooted, I don't know if you know this, but they actually Dutch started Bikeshed as a blog. It wasn't called Bikeshed, I forget what it was called. But He started a blog because he was customizing a sport classic. It was like one of his first bikes. He's customizing this thing, and he starts blogging about it. So long story short, that becomes, him featuring lots of other bikes and becoming this space where he's celebrating custom bike builders and so on and so forth. So there's a lot between then and now, obviously, in the story, and we can get into it. But the heart and soul of Bikeshed was really content and storytelling. And over the years, they've developed some very clever and I think creative, call them like properties, if you will, like Shed Talks. And Shed Talks is really just the fundamental idea is like, let's get in a room and talk about, custom bike building, whatever it is, motorcycle culture. And they've done these live at their motorcycle shows, and then they've done them in kind of pseudo podcast format. And so what we haven't been doing, even though LA just celebrated 4 years of being open, is we haven't been doing enough of that content locally here in the US. And obviously one of the benefits of LA is there's so much culture, motorcycle culture that exists right around the location. Max's shop is like not even a mile from Bikeshed. And obviously Vicky and Dutch have these great relationships with so many people in the culture. I have a ton of relationships. So we decided to fire these things up, and we did 6 right out of the way. And 5 of the first 6, I actually knew the people, and I've known the people for quite some time. Max is the one person I didn't know. I obviously knew of him.
Know him?
I don't know. We just never crossed paths. Lots of mutual friends, and as you know, he was doing this insane Ferrari V8 powered motorcycle.
I'll just say there's something that could take up a whole podcast. It's y'all's Ferrari connection.
Yeah,
Dude,
like you worked at Ferrari. Well, and you love motorcycles. You are I figured you guys would be best friends already.
It's got to be one of the most beautiful motorcycles I've ever seen. The thing is unbelievable. And seeing, I mean, how long did it take them? I feel like it's been since I first saw it. It was like 3 years ago. A year and a half.
Yeah, I don't know how long he sat on it because he was doing another build when if the story goes, he's like looking for parts for I think a BSA or something, and he's on eBay and he sees this motor that pops up that's like suggestion of something you might like, and he's like 15 grand for a Ferrari V8. He knows nothing about Ferrari, by the way, at this time, and he's just like, yeah, I should buy that, and then that starts this build. But it's wild, dude. It looks great in pictures, but we went to the studio and checked it out and did a whole studio tour with it. And it is, I agree. It is wild to think about.
It looks like a production motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks better. The fit and finish is like hard to believe that it was done in this studio entirely by hand.
One guy, all by hand.
One guy. And the proportions and everything like actually makes sense. Like you don't really know if it's going to make sense. I sat on the bike and I'm like, wow, it actually feels like you could ride this thing. Like it's, he's achieved, I told him for better or for worse, he's going to go down in history as the guy that built the Ferrari bike. Cause that thing,
100%.
I don't know that. I mean, it's just it's so good for like cultivating discussion in social media and all that stuff that people that know nothing about motorcycles will be like, that's pretty damn cool. And
it's a crossover for sure.
Yeah. I've been shocked. You know how compartmentalized our industry or our culture can be, where it's like sport bike people are sport bike people, Ducati people are Ducati people. Even within Harley, everyone's got their own little subculture niche. Everyone loves this thing. Like die hard, like chopper guys are like DMing me like, that thing is amazing. So yeah, it was a great way to start because Max is obviously one of a kind in terms of his work. I think I don't know that there's too many bike builders in the world that seem to like give no shits about trends or pleasing anybody. He's just building what he wants to build. And every time he takes a fresh look at it and it comes out sculptural. I mean, this thing honestly looks more probably like a production motorcycle than anything he's ever built. Which is wild because it's like has no business being in a chassis, of a motorcycle. But he accomplished something pretty crazy. I think the most unfortunate thing is that bike won't get seen, or at least the current trajectory is it'll never get seen in public because it got bought and he doesn't even know who the buyer is. It's just going into a collection somewhere.
Wow, that is wild. So he still has it on hand though, but like is leaving sometime soon?
It's already shipped right after we did the podcast. Yeah.
What? Wow, good timing.
Wow.
Because we were kidding. We were gonna try to get it out to the bike show, Bikeshed's bike show, which was a couple of weeks ago, which was only 2 weeks after the podcast or something like that. And he's like, I can't. It's got to go to the buyer, and he's likely never to see the thing again.
Wow, that's
How much did he pay
bittersweet.
for it?
Over $500,000. But I think he could have got more, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think had we met beforehand, I think there's a lot of.
Wait till the podcast comes out. Yeah.
He underestimated probably the Ferrari customer, not necessarily the motorcycle customer, but the Ferrari customer. And that thing is, I mean, honestly, when you see, if you were ever to get to see it in person, it is like MotoGP level, just like fit and finish and design. And it's just so well done. And I think that he could have, probably his best bet would have like taken it to Pebble Beach and then auction it. I think he could have cleaned up. I mean, $500,000 is great, but I mean, the dude put a year and a half.
Oh, you're right. Not enough money. Yeah, it could be so much more than $500,000.
I'll say this: it was much better executed than. You remember the Viper motorcycle concept, like in the was it the early 2000s?
No,
where I think
remember.
it was Viper or.
Really?
I think it wasn't like a
knockoff?
one-off deal. Like they've had like serious resources put into this. It was like a Viper motor wedged into this motorcycle thing that wasn't really a motorcycle. It
Even
had,
like boss horses.
it had like four wheels. Like it looked really futuristic in like the early 2000s. But I mean, it wasn't rideable.
Yeah. It's a totally different game.
Yeah, he I'll tell you, man, like he took this thing to Button Willow and rode it on the track. Like he legitimately tuned it himself. He wanted to make sure that it had enough ground clearance, so enough to get your knee down at the racetrack.
Dude,
the thing is wild, and it has no. Imagine that it has like no modern electronic aids. So you have this like 400-ish horsepower motorcycle with no traction control, no wheelie control, no ABS. Like it's just like, I'm sure to try to get that power to the wheel without looping it out or just burning up the rear tire. I don't know. It's got to be wild.
Yeah. And he just tuned it on his own. I mean, listening to the podcast about how he tuned it, and he's like, it wasn't like,
dude, this guy's a maniac. He's a maniac. He's strapping his laptop to the tank with like the tuning software. And like he's got a friend who's got a dyno, he's doing some of it there too, but like he's legitimately like running around the highways of Los Angeles, like the 405 with a laptop taped to the tank. It's absurd, but it's amazing all at the same time. The guy's really special, and he was very humble, like for being such a talented, well-respected guy. He's very humble.
Completely agree. I mean, listening to the episode made me want to be his friend even more. I was just like, man, this guy seems like way cooler than I thought, and I'm going to be even weirder when I meet him in person. It was very cool. All right, so we'll stop just talking about your podcast of Max, because now people should just go watch your Shed Talk. But you mentioned you've got 6 more in the can already?
Yeah, we did. Who else have we done? We done the next one that'll come out is Sean Guardado of Suicide Machine Co. We did Becky Gable. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Becky. Becky's young woman in the kind of Harley chopper scene, has this company called Axle Co., which is, she started during COVID, and the whole thing started. You guys know the infamous shirt that says, "If you can read this, the bitch fell off the back."
Yeah.
She made a shirt that said, "If you can read this, the dude fell off the back." And like, it just went like crazy. Like she went viral. She made tons of these things. And then now she makes all these kind of irreverent spins on, male stereotype, motorcycle t-shirts. And then she's also doing like leather goods and all this stuff. Anyway, she's doing great, but she's like a former pro snowboarder. She raced in, I don't know if you guys are familiar. Royal Enfield launched this thing called, I think it's called Build Train Race. They did it in AFT.
Yes. Yeah. Where is it hosted? It's at like a castle, isn't it?
No, they do it at AFT in Flat Track, and then
I'm thinking of something else. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they did road racing, and she was a part of the first cohort that did the road racing stuff. So she was posted up with Roland Saint. She got to know Roland, and he helped her build the bike, and she went out and road raced this thing with zero road racing experience. And I think she got second place or something. But
holy shit!
Yeah, so we got Becky, Alex Earl, who you might know of.
Yep.
Alex,
No,
big Ducati fan.
Yep.
Yeah. Who else did we do? Heath Pinter. Do you know Heath Pinter? So Heath, see, this is why we do the podcast. Like,
yeah,
Heath's a former BMX rider turned motorcycle builder with like incredible stories. Who's like a in-house bike builder designer at Saddlemen.
Oh, okay.
Also super great guy. So yeah, we've got a bunch, and then we've got a bunch we want to do, and I think it's going to be a bit of a cornerstone of a broader kind of content strategy that, you know, we hope supports motorcycle culture. I mean, that's Bikeshed's mission, is like, how do we kind of preserve and drive forward motorcycle culture? And I think they're uniquely positioned to do it. We feel like we are, is like, just shine light on the positive things that are happening in bike culture, you know?
Yeah. So I mean, that's a perfect transition into the fact that I'm first off, I'm so excited to have you on this podcast, not just because you're a friend, but because you are without a doubt like a juggernaut of marketing cool shit. I mean, you've been, and I'm sorry if that's a weird like suggestion there, or if it makes you humbled. But you've worked with some of the biggest brands across automotive and motorcycle, you know, starting with Ducati, then Ferrari, then Rivian, right? Was it Rivian as well?
Yeah.
Rivian, what am I missing?
Harley.
Did I say that already? No? I mean, like every single major, like experience brand in power sports and in automotive, you have had a huge hand in ultimately shaping the culture, the way that people see it, the way people interact with it. I mean, it is incredible what you've been able to do. So that's, I think, why
you have a question, or no, I'm just gassing them up.
I'm just really excited to have you. No, I'm saying, like, that's why maybe you should know Max. He took a Ferrari and mated it with a motorcycle. But I mean, with that being said, I think you have a really good understanding of what makes a brand unique and how it goes to market and interests other people and how you grow that. I mean, can you give us just a rundown on maybe just a little bit of your history first and how you got into this space and where you're going?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the way that is probably best described is like I somehow got lucky enough to live out like every little boy's dream career they didn't even know existed. I grew up, you know, drawing cars and motorcycles and kind of being infatuated with it. I was strangely obsessed with bikes even as a child, like for as long as I can remember. And I had two parents that were adamantly against me ever riding motorcycles. So it was not until I got my first job out of college that I was able to buy my first bike. And then that really just kind of set forth everything into motion. Like it became an obsession, if you will. And if I think back through my life, you know, from early 20s when I bought that first bike all the way till today, motorcycling and motorcycle culture has had such a profound impact on my life, personally, obviously professionally, and those two things kind of became very intertwined. But I was, when I bought that bike, I was working at an advertising agency in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was loving the work, learning a lot about, you know, marketing and branding. And I was like, well, the one thing that feels unfulfilled is I'm doing a lot of work for companies that I'm not really that excited about. Yeah. Wouldn't it be cool if I could work in the motorcycle industry? That was as naive of an origin story as it sounds. And, you know, I kind of started to put some feelers out, and one thing led to another, and I land this, you know, kind of mid-level brand management job at Ducati North America. And that really was the turning point in my career, where I kind of transitioned from that agency universe into, following my passion for bikes and cars into the automotive space. Ducati was transformative. That's where we met. It was, everything I could have ever imagined and more. Like I still today can't, can't believe some of the experiences that I got to have. Like, I tell the best way for me to describe it in sum is like being in the design center in Borgo Panigale amongst half a dozen people once a year, a couple times a year, having the designers, the engineers, the CEO in the room with you, asking you what you think of a motorcycle that's supposed to come out like 4 years later. And I'm like, how did I get here? Like,
Yeah.
what do I owe this privilege that I've been given? But yeah, it's been an incredible experience, man. And so Ducati, ultimately, I became the marketing director for North America. And,
Wait, and were you not, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you head up the launch of the Ducati Scrambler globally? Is that right as well?
I didn't head it up globally, but we were obviously the first Scrambler was designed for the U.S. market. So when we brought back the Scrambler, I was really integral into the kind of like core team in Bologna, because our team, we knew we were going to launch the thing in the U.S. And so we knew the U.S. was going to be an important market for the bike. Obviously, the narrative and the storytelling was very closely tied to the U.S. So got to work really closely with the guys at the HQ on that project. And then we ultimately did the launch in Palm Springs, and a lot of the early marketing happened here in the United States. So I didn't lead it. I led it from the U.S. side, but then as a part of kind of the global team that brought it to market. And that one was super fun. I actually met my wife through that experience.
Oh, nice.
We hired an experiential agency that she worked for, and ultimately, we got married. So
Nice.
motorcycling is like the gift that just keeps on giving, guys.
It really is.
That's right. I met my wife in this building.
Yeah, at this dealership.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's
that's great, man. So Ducati then transitioned into, what was your next big move?
Yeah, so I honestly, I never intended to leave Ducati, to be honest. I love that brand and that company. I was actually there a couple of weeks ago visiting, and still feels like family to me. But I really wanted a global experience, and that wasn't happening, I guess, fast enough. And then at the same time, I got a call from Ferrari to come lead their marketing department in North America. So I took the call and ultimately moved to New York and did that for a couple of years, which was a wild experience. Like, you think about premium luxury brands, you think about Italian business culture, but nothing compares to Ferrari. Like nothing.
Really?
It is wild in all the ways you've heard the stories, and then some. It's in I don't mean that in a negative way. It's romantic in a way. Like if you've ever read any of the books about Enzo, like somehow that culture has continued to exist in all these years later in a really interesting way. But that was a really great education on how Ferrari is definitely not really the automotive business. We've got dealers, we sell cars, but it's not the automotive business in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, I did that. Then I left. I actually did a startup for a few years.
Yeah,
Founded a startup.
founder brothers here. We all know the struggles. So yeah.
No, that was fun, very rewarding. But after a few years, we didn't scale it as much as we needed to. So it was like, all right, I got to get a job again. And Rivian had just raised that like $10 billion round. And I was like, all right, this is
like,
super.
They have $10 billion. I'm going to go there.
Super interesting company, well funded. Cool product. What they were doing with the brand, I think even early, was very much drafting off of these brands like Ducati, Ferrari, Harley Davidson that lean into community and culture. And I think that was really smart of them right out of the gate, instead of it, everyone else was just leaning into the tech, right?
Yeah.
They had great tech, but they were very kind of smart in how they were thinking about how they were developing the brand. So anyways, I went to Rivian in a kind of unique way to my previous roles, in that it was more of a CX role. So at Rivian, obviously they're direct to consumer, or they were going to be direct to consumer at the time. I was there 2 years, I think, before we actually sold a car. And so we had to think about direct to consumer automotive. And I think I came in with a unique perspective, having obviously traditional automotive experience, and then thinking about, well, what are the things we could do better in a DTC world, and what will be the challenges in a DTC world, especially, with EVs, which, have all the complexity of trying to figure out how to sell in certain states in this country, and, fighting up against, dealer groups and all that kind of stuff that don't want direct consumer automotive. So, anyway, that was super fun, because it was a lot of designing the customer journey and thinking about customer life cycle well ahead of a customer ever owning a car. And, we're talking about community and loyalty and all these things, and no one's even got a car yet. So did that. And then again, prematurely, in terms of what my plan was, prematurely got a phone call from Harley Davidson and got recruited to go lead global brand marketing for Harley. So they basically made me an offer I couldn't refuse. A buddy of mine got brought in there to lead global marketing, and he called me, I don't know, 6 months before I actually took the job, and my reaction was like, never going to happen. I'm at this.
I'm trying to get him on the show too. Trying to get Jeff out here. I'm assuming it's Jeff, right?
No. I brought Jeff in like 2 years later.
You brought Jeff? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Jeff owes you then. All right. Let's see.
Yeah. So, anyways, took the opportunity. I left this like innovative car company that's like on the cutting edge of like not just product, but also like how they have to think about retail and so on and so forth, to go to one of the most iconic legacy brands in the world. And didn't make sense to anybody except for me. Somehow I rationalized it as a good idea. But it ended up being a great experience, to be honest. My time there was the way I describe it is like 120-year-old startup. It had some of the challenges you could imagine a 120-year-old legacy company having. But at the same time, Jochen Zeitz, who's now gone, but was there for about 5 years, he encouraged a very entrepreneurial approach. So those two things were kind of always at odds with one another within the company, but it made it fun, because it wasn't completely like we just have to do everything, the way we used to do it. But, ideating and then trying to bring things to life. It's the bringing things to life part that becomes difficult in a 120-year-old company.
I mean, we all saw the impact of that, and I think that some people loved it. A lot of people had complaints about it, obviously.
Yeah.
But it definitely feels like just general change management. The idea that you're going to try and modernize and bring in a new market, especially like as a marketing lead, your job is to bring in new customers and new experiences. And yeah, it's fascinating to say, hey, let's try something different so we can bring in more people. And that seems to piss off a lot of people who like it the old way.
I mean, this is inherently the Harley problem, right? And Harley's not the only one. Ferrari has this challenge. Any legacy brand has this challenge, especially if they're not continuously evolving and innovating. And I think Harley is probably the worst offender of just riding out the legacy for decades. And so when you
try to pivot, and the pivot's too hard now.
I think Ducati's actually done a great job of, you remember, you lived through it. Like when Ducati started to evolve the product, people were pissed. I mean, what's the Ducati? It's supposed to be a twin trellis frame, single-sided swing arm, dry clutch, like all the things.
Desmo valves, all that stuff.
It's like no Desmo now, guys. I was in the factory a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, wow, this is wild. Like even the way they do factory tours, they haven't quite figured out, because they literally have the whole Desmo set up, like essentially a deconstructed motor, and they're telling the Desmo story.
The entire side of my body is a Desmo tattoo. So yeah, I mean, I also bleed Ducati as well. But yeah, it's crazy that that's not it. And you're right, there was pushback, but it wasn't the same type of pushback that Harley got. And then I have to mention Ferrari's electric car.
Yeah,
very similar thing. Like
Luce
oh my God,
or whatever.
Dude,
yeah.
The internet hatred that is going around right now, and that electric Ferrari is like, whew. I mean, it's not my cup of tea either, but I'll never be able to afford a Ferrari either way. So,
I mean, the thing is incredible. It's looking. I mean,
what's
it's
your hot take on electric Ferrari?
Man, it's tough because I look at it from all different angles. Like I think about it. Well, one thing is if you talk to any great designer, they'll tell you if it doesn't shock people and piss people off when it first comes out, then it's not going to be one of those like marquee kind of design evolutions that people look back on, like 916 as an example. Like
That's a great point.
Honda Rune.
Yeah, and I think now the tough part is you have this like weird social media thing that like you get this instant feedback that very quickly ignites via all these algorithms to create everyone all of a sudden is a design critic. So I don't honestly. I also am very careful about judging any kind of motorcycle or car until I see it in person. I've seen many motorcycles and photographs at launches where I'm like, and then you see it in person, like, oh, that's actually beautiful.
Yeah.
What's a good example of that is JT Nesbitt's Bienville.
Yeah,
Legacy.
We have
the Curtis is down there.
Curtis is downstairs, but
But the same thing, the Bienville Legacy got incredible hate, I feel like, online because it is busy. I mean, it's wild. It's unlike anything you've ever seen, and then you see it in person, you're just like, oh my God.
Oh, it makes sense.
It's
yeah.
a masterpiece.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the Norton. I mean, the Norton looks good in pictures.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's a good looking motorcycle in pictures, but then you see it in person, you're like, wow, okay, now
The new one?
Yeah, the new one. Have you seen it?
The Manx is unbelievable.
The Manx?
Yeah, they had it at the Bikeshed show. It's for sure. It's a good looking bike. It's interesting because it kind of goes against everything that's happening in the sport bike space of like wings and all the stuff.
No aero. I love that there's no aero.
Yeah, it's just a good looking super bike. It's like a simple.
Yeah, no, it's classy.
Yeah, it's classy.
I think they did a good job with it, and but yeah, I don't know. The other thing I'll say is like everyone having opinion about everything. Kind of, I think these brands got to be careful. Take feedback, but take it with a grain of salt. Your job is not to your job is to be the company that's driving things forward, not like take dictated advice from social media or even dealer networks. I think the OEM dealer relationship, which I'm sure we'll get into a bit here, is like you need to listen to your dealers because they have such a pulse on the market, but they're not motorcycle designers. So you need to listen and figure out how to interpret that feedback and then go back and create the things of the future. You don't just do what they say, right? Because,
so is that the issue that Harley Davidson got into for too many decades, where it was like, and granted, maybe it's not listening just to the dealer, it's not just listening just to the consumer, but like we did a really good job building this thing. And this thing sells really well, and we're going to keep building this thing in the same direction for a very long time. And then they realized, oh shit, we got to pivot because we've got to capture a younger audience. We've got to do something else. So they tried the V-Rod and wasn't adopted well. They tried the Buell and wasn't adopted well. And they tried the LiveWire. I want to get into that with you too. And so it's like they just held course too long. Like, is that part of it? We have to, as a brand, you have to branch out to show that you have the chops to do it. Like I think of like BMW, the new K18. That again, it's a concept. I doubt it'll ever come out, but they at least consistently go, look at this thing we built. It's pretty cool looking. And like, is that what forces people to recognize that change is part of your brand identity?
I don't know. With Harley, I think it's not just a product challenge, right? Like I think they had absolute lightning in a bottle in the late 90s, early 2000s, where it was like right market, right time, right brand, right product for that time. And I think they did something completely unique to the rest of the motorcycle space. I mean, they were you decided at that time, you didn't say, "Hey, I want to be a motorcyclist." You said, "Hey, I want to own a Harley."
Yeah.
And you walked into a Harley dealership and you said, like, "Which color do I like?" Right? Like it wasn't a product. Like it was so brand and identity driven. And I think that if I had to put my finger on, like, try to like summarize the one thing, it's just become a victim of your own success a little bit. Like what they were just explosive in that era, and then everything was kind of built to that scale and to what was working. And people didn't really, to your point, like every time they tried something new, people kind of pushed back on it. And so when you have that much scale of something that's going well, that doesn't require a lot of more innovation or R&D, I think it's hard to do what Ducati's constantly done, which is just push forward. But Ducati's also got a different brand ethos, right? Like Harley's brand values, like you don't hear anywhere in there the word innovation. Where Ducati's, like, it's always been fundamental. I mean, the CEO is an engineer. Like they have to continue to push forward because that's who they are. And I don't think Harley's, Harley, maybe you could have said that a little bit early Harley Davidson era, but that's not really what the brand is built on. So I don't think that the consumer expects that from them as much. So it's tough, but it's talked about in B schools, has been forever, this Harley dilemma of like, how do you attract the future without alienating the core? And it seems that even today, I mean, that's a big part of why I went there, was I thought that was an interesting problem to try to solve. But I can't say that we solved it.
Yeah. No kidding. Well, actually, you were a big part of the LiveWire. Was that kind of the relaunch? Was it the original launch? I know you worked with that side of Harley. Was that a big part of your work at Harley?
No, actually, it was. So LiveWire, I mean, they launched that product back when I was at Ducati. LiveWire 1 was
not that long. Damn.
Yeah, because remember they made like 40 of them and they kind of toured them around the world. And it was such an incredible product. You've ridden one? Have you ridden a LiveWire 1?
Never.
It is
never rode a LiveWire.
so good. It is
Really?
It is wildly good for being first to market, essentially, of any major OEM. It contradicted everything we're talking about relative to like Harley resting on its laurels. Like they were out there ahead of it, made the investments, and made a killer product. But it was over $30,000 when it launched. EV adoption was like still is on the horizon relative to motorcycles. And motorcycles will follow cars for sure. But so the car adoption is slower. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I have a Rivian. I'm a diehard motorcycle person. I am a gas and oil guy. But now that I have a Rivian and I have a charger at my house, I'm a lot more likely to think about and consider an EV, right? So,
they're fast as hell. I hadn't ridden the LiveWire, but I rode a lot of Zeros, and it is a different type of ride, but it is exhilarating. It's like I like to compare it to when I sold the shop. I decided I'm going to buy like my dream bike. My dream bike was the Ducati Hyper Motard 1100 Evo. Like that's the one I wanted. The reason it was my dream bike is that when I rode it, it still scared the shit out of me. And so I was like, I need to own that one because it's insane. And the first time I rode a Zero was that same way. I was like, holy shit, this is like rip your arms off fast. And I hadn't felt that on a motorcycle in a really long time, of like, not just this is fast, but like I am scared of this thing, so I must own it.
But also the sensory like experience of it.
Yeah, it just keeps totally different. And going. So I'm sure the LiveWire is a similar, like, just crazy visceral experience.
Yeah, well, it's like the Zero. I've ridden a couple of Zeros as well. I don't know. It's complicated because I know we're relatively young guys relative to the average motorcycle consumer, but we probably have old school ideas of what a motorcycle experience should be. And I love the visceral experience of riding, internal combustion motorcycle.
Tiny
Like,
explosions between your legs. Like, what could be better than that?
that's a part of it, right? The vibrations, the sound, like the kind of like poetry in motion that is using the clutch and the brake and, trail braking and all of that. I don't know. To me, that's so embedded in the experience that it makes it hard for me to love the experience of riding an EV motorcycle. I very much see a space for them, for our generation, as more like urban commuter, like, it's a motorcycle, but it's not the one you ride to like make your heart beat faster. Like, it's fun, it's fast, it's all those things. But I do have a sense of optimism about EV bikes, and it's driven by all of these kids that, I don't know if it's the same way in New Orleans, but on the West Coast, it is absolute insanity. Like, these kids on these, I don't know, Surons and Super 73s are like doing 12 o'clock wheelies down the middle of the street. Like, their parents, I think their parents thought they bought their kid a bicycle. But they put them on a motorcycle with no experience and like put them on public streets. And like, all I'm seeing now is, I just saw another article yesterday about in Southern California, like, they're trying to crack down on this stuff because kids are just like wilding out on the street. I think that's inspiring for the future of motorcycles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, because these kids won't come up with the same preconceived ideas of what a motorcycle should be. They're just going to be like, if it rips and it feels familiar to me, like it feels like a natural progression. So I think the future is bright relative to that, because our generation.
Funny you say that about the kids' like perception of what a motorcycle is. I was in the car with my 4-year-old boy literally yesterday, and there's kids in our neighborhood ripping on some Surons or something, and he just goes, "Daddy, look at those kids, big kids on motorcycles." And I was like, well,
You would have been like, those aren't motorcycles.
I mean, they've got headlights and they're
potato. Yeah,
they have headlights and they're hauling ass. They've got full face motocross helmets on, so
it's a motorcycle.
Yeah, they all have those full face moto helmets, and my mind kind of got blown. I was living in Irvine, California, which is like suburb USA, for a little while when I was at Rivian, and I would be on the playground with my then 1-year-old. And there'd be kids that maybe like 3-4 years old ripping on what would have been the equivalent of like a 50cc dirt bike to us.
Yeah.
On the playground, right? But because it didn't make noise, like, imagine if we were ripping on a playground full of kids with a 50cc dirt bike, like, people would call the cops, and we would probably get thrown in jail as parents for like, what are you doing? Like, that's
a great point.
But these kids are all on these more powerful little electric motorbikes, and the parents don't seem to, I don't know, it's wild. Like, I guess because our generation was our parents were so anti-motorcycles, these kids' parents just don't seem aware of like what they're doing.
It feels more bicycle adjacent than motorcycle adjacent. So it's the barrier to entry seems lower, even though it's the same thing. It's just as dangerous. It's just as like,
I don't think it registers. They've got
which great. We're creating a generation. Awesome. It's happening. Like,
exactly. So if you can, like,
guys rip wheelies, like,
if you're in the business and you can hold out like 20 more years, like, it's going to be great again.
What's going to be an interesting
experiment
is that my son, he's been riding a Stasic, and my dad, about 4 months before he was born, bought him a PW50 because he was like, I don't know how long 2-strokes are going to last. I got to get one while they're available. So it's still sitting in a crate. What's going to be interesting, and a mechanic that used to work for me had a expansion chamber for a PW50 laying around. So that is strapped to the inside of the crate. So it's going to be interesting to see which he prefers.
Man, we're going to have to have him on the podcast.
Stasic or, he'll talk. He'll talk. My brother says all the time, you got to get this guy his own podcast. He just talks and talks.
That's great. Hal on the podcast. He's be the follow-up episode to this one.
Anyway, that's going to be an interesting experiment.
Yeah.
Stasic or old school 2-stroke.
Yeah. What's he really going to like?
Yeah. I don't know. That would be super interesting, because it's undeniable that there's a visceral experience that comes with a car or a motorcycle that's internal combustion. Especially the likes of a Ducati, a Harley, a Ferrari that have the sound and the vibrations and all those things.
Yep.
So I think
smells.
that part's somehow chemical, right? The smell, all of it, right?
Yeah.
Especially with two-stroke. But I don't know. Will your son think that's cool, or will he just be like, nah, I'm good with this thing over here?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I still have a burn on my leg from my Z50 whenever I was 7 years old. Will that make me like, I don't want to deal with this. I'll just get on this thing and twist and go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we have to wait another, like you said, 20 years, and we'll find out.
Got to
It's gonna
bust
be
that
great.
PW50 out of the crate and do the experiment.
Yeah.
right, so-
in a world where there's not a lot to be, or an industry that seems to be down on itself quite a bit, I do have a ton of optimism around that. It'll probably, again, it'll be the next generation of riders. And, I think there's no world where motorcycles stop being cool to some contingent of people. I watched my daughter the other day. Kid flew by on one of these e-bikes, and she's super young. She doesn't know a lot about bikes except for like what's in the garage, and obviously, but she's like, that was cool. And I'm like, if you watch any kid like that just sees a motorcycle for the first time, like they just stare at it. There's something like this undeniable attraction. So like this idea that we have to make motorcycles cool and all this, I think they're just always going to be inherently cool to a certain audience. Will they be accessible? Will people connect with it enough? Will they be willing to take the risk to do it? All those questions, will come to play, but I don't think they'll ever stop being cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say it all the time that this industry survives in spite of itself. Like there's no reason, especially in North America, there's absolutely no reason this industry should exist. Like, it just shouldn't. But they're cool. People want the feeling.
Just you could be born, have no recollection, no like never be taught that it's cool, and just know, like your daughter, that you're like, it's like riding on a magic carpet. You're just like there, and you're going fast somehow. It's very cool. All right, so I want to move on now to, we got to the Harley component of your career. We ran into each other in Anaheim for the Supercross, and you were not yet at Bikeshed. And we had a really interesting conversation. We don't have to name the shop, but we had an interesting conversation about a shop that you and I both know and love, and I have looked up to forever. It was a dealership that was in our 20 club, incredible operator that ran it, just cultural, like a
leader,
a cultural leader globally. I feel like he was a huge deal. And that's your local dealer right now, or it was one of your dealers?
Yeah, it's local to me now.
And its shine isn't there anymore. It doesn't feel like it did before. I think it has a lot to do with the guy who ran it, who is incredible. I don't know. Should I not say who this is?
I don't know why you're dancing around. It's MotoCorsa and our good friend Arun Sharma that drove that place to becoming, like, year over year over year, one of the most successful Ducati dealerships in the world.
Yeah.
And I think his recipe for doing so was just so... I think so much of it was just kind of like doing the fundamentals really well, but then really leaning into developing a culture in his town.
The showroom was incredible. The way he delivered units, the incredibly weird custom bikes he would build, like the off-road Panigale he did, and then the Madagale photo shoot of his technicians in bikinis, like just like the stuff he did was like early viral content, and
it was.
It
was. I'll tell you a fun story about Arun and MotoCorsa, though, that I think has a lot of relevance to what you guys do and what this podcast is about. So I was at Ducati North America when I met Arun, and this guy is like sort of a thing of legend in the Ducati universe at that time, right? Because he was like early to social media. He had this kind of quirky cast of characters that was working at the dealership. He was just really good at cultivating culture and then showing that culture on social early on. And so I think people look at that dealership and like, man, that must be the secret ingredient. But what I'll tell you is like this story. The first time I went to MotoCorsa, I go in and there's a cafe to the left, right when you walk in the dealership. By the way, they've now shut down the cafe, so you can't get a coffee there anymore, or you can self-serve yourself. But there's a cafe, and he's like, "Hey, let's grab a coffee." And this is, I think it was even maybe even been our first time meeting. And we start talking. I have a coffee in hand, and we're no less than like 30 seconds into the conversation, and someone walks through the door. He immediately, as the GM of the dealership, this character that we all know in the space, stops the conversation, turns around, walks up to the customer and greets the customer before they're 2 feet into the shop.
Yeah.
That told me everything I needed to know about why Arun and MotoCorsa was successful. Like he put the customer first. He treated them like they were family. He was just a lot of it was just like doing the fundamentals of retail really, really well, and then adding this layer of like community and culture, and then leveraging social media and all of that. But that in and of itself told me everything. It's just like this guy is successful because he's putting the customer first every minute of every day. It doesn't matter if I'm there or the CEO of Ducati's there. He's putting the customer first. And I think that was, I've never had anything close to that very simple experience at any dealership in the world, where someone sort of did something so maybe counterintuitive in a way, because you're like, oh, you're the guy from Ducati, I need to take care of you, da 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 da. He was like, yeah, he was doing those things, but he was like, but that doesn't matter in the context of like a customer just walked in the door and I'm going to make sure they feel welcome in my shop.
I think you're exactly right that other dealers or manufacturers might look at what he was doing from the outside on social or whatever and say, there it is. That's all you got to do. Mm-hmm. But then you saying he did the fundamentals right and putting the customer first, I think dealers, like, they understand that, but they don't really understand it because the fundamentals are pretty challenging to master. You know, like I think putting the customer first as far as greeting and everything, you can do that. When it comes to the service department and the parts department and mastering the operations, I mean, obviously every single person that's working at a service advisor position or a parts position, I'm sure all of them in the back of their mind are like, yes, I obviously want to put the customer first, but to actually achieve it, like with all of the shit that they have to do, like in the background, it makes it so, like, the fundamentals become so hard. And I feel like a lot of GMs that don't put the work in to get the processes mastered and documented and make things truly easy for the frontline staff, like, I feel like it's easy for the GM to just say, just do your job. It's like, well, this job is pretty damn hard, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to put the customer first. And I feel like Arun probably had those bases covered. I mean, how you were a customer of theirs, I'm sure. Like, how was the actual ownership experience post sale?
Mm-hmm. It was with Arun. Well, I was a customer of his when I didn't live in Oregon. Now I'm in Oregon. He's no longer there. But I think that he did. So I want to come back around to that point, because that's so much a part of what you guys do, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on, you know, this operational complexity and challenges of a dealership, knowing what good customer service looks like, and sort of knowing what needs to be done. Like, you know, no one in this space is like an idiot. Like, we're all consumers. We all love this industry. We love these motorcycles. We love these brands. But trying to figure out how we navigate through some of the complexity of operating those businesses to deliver the experience that we know we need to deliver, I would love to hear more from you guys about that. But I think the other thing Arun did really well is he really loved the Ducati brand, got to know it really well, and then he was doing things that no other dealership was doing at the time to bring the brand to life for his customers, right? So he was organizing regular track days. And when you went to the track days, there was espresso and, all the just little, very small things that are not, we don't look at it today and say like, oh, that was incredibly innovative. But I can tell you, and I'm not here to throw shade at MotoCorsa, but you go there today and it's not the same experience. You walk in the door, it's not that kind of warm, friendly welcome that you once got. You poke around the dealership and, you're not getting that same experience they were delivering. Then I've been to their track days and it's like, there's no coffee, not just not espresso. There's just we're not taking care of the customers. We're delivering them an experience. They've become very operational in how they're executing. Yeah. It's like, well, we hosted the day and
you just did it, facilitated it. That's it.
Yeah. We're going to give you the safety brief and good luck. And it's like, but that's not, Arun understood that the experience was much bigger than that. Right.
Yeah.
The coffee was important.
A lifestyle. It was a lifestyle that he sold, and it happened to be with the product.
Absolutely.
Whereas now it's a product sale.
I was never at one of those track days when Arun was there, but I know Arun well enough to know that I'm sure he walked around to every single pit.
Yep. Made everybody feel special.
And said hi and made everyone feel special on that particular day. And those fundamentals just aren't happening anymore. We kind of laughed about it, but when I went to go there for the first time after I moved here, I was like, oh, who's running this place now? And there's bios of all of the staff. The GM's bio says this is a Ducati exclusive dealership, right? And I got no problem with any other brand, but you're the GM of a Ducati exclusive delership and your bio says that your personal bike and the bike you love is a Bonneville. I'm like, what's the message?
Flagship store.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not because we hate Triumph, but if you're a Ducati customer, you want to know that the people that are there also love Ducati and are knowledgeable about Ducati and live and breathe this thing. So the same way you would feel if you went to a Triumph exclusive dealer, you'd want that owner to be deeply embedded in the culture. So I think they're just missing
into the culture. You're buying into the club that they run. Right. And if they're not a part of the club that they run, then what's the point of being in the club?
Right. And Arun understood that better than I think most. And we should probably stop speaking so positively about him because he'll hear this and then his head will only grow larger. But.
Yeah. Well, then he got poached and he's no longer there. Now he's at Ferrari doing incredible stuff there. So
yeah, that was funny actually. We ended up at Ferrari at the same time when I was running marketing, and then he took his first Ferrari job. Yeah.
Huh. Well, good. Is he in Oregon with Ferrari right now, or what's he doing with that?
No, so he started at the Ferrari dealership in Oregon. He was actually running MotoCorsa and the Ferrari dealership at the same time for a little while when they were both owned by the Tonkins. Tonkins sold MotoCorsa. Arun went to he ultimately ended up at Ferrari, I want to say San Diego. And then that was owned by a group that also owned Newport Beach. So they brought him to Newport, and then most recently he actually moved on, and he's I think he's the GM of Ferrari in Las Vegas.
Wow, that's a big one. We gotta get him on the show. I'll send him these clips. We're gonna get him on now.
Yeah, where he'll discredit everything I'm saying about why they were successful. But I think
Today's podcast is brought to you by us. Us. Me, Max, Danny, the rest of the Onyx team. It's the same people that make this show and put it on. We're not marketers. We're operators. We run stores. We've trained hundreds of dealerships across the country. And we've built something from scratch because we believe this industry can do better than it's currently doing. Here's what we know. When you design a great ownership experience, customers stay. They repeat purchases, they send their friends, fixed ops grows, the whole store gets more profitable and a hell of a lot more fun. But that doesn't happen by accident. It takes real process and real training and people who've actually done it to help make that happen. And if you're a dealer who's building toward the future, we want to talk to you. So find us at onyx.io and enjoy the rest of the show.
He would, coming back around to the point about understanding what good customer experience looks like and the complexity of running and operating a dealership and trying to deliver it, I think Arun would be great to have on, because it's not that he didn't have those same challenges. So like,
Of course.
Right.
how did he navigate through them?
How do you make a culture like that? I mean, it's interesting. It's hard to not draw lines between, okay, Harley, if run right, if done right, if supporting the community, a Harley dealership thrives. And then we've got a standalone Ducati store that, if they can lean into the culture and the community and build a lifestyle around that club, around that dealership, then like it really thrives. So it like is this, it makes it complicated when the dealership below us is 5 brands. And, and they're all great brands. They're all European brands. They all work quite well together. But it's hard to be the Ducati thriving. We watch MotoGP together. We drink espresso. We do this. And also be the guy who goes adventure touring on our BMW R1300 GSs. It's just a different thing. So either you need that like leader of the community that's tied into the dealership, or you need to be able to code switch really effectively. And so I think that is maybe a little bit of an advantage that Arun was able to just entirely lean into being not just the personality of Ducati, but like the personality of Arun matched so well with the personality of Ducati.
Yeah. And he was really good also at ingraining himself in the motorcycle. He in so many ways like drove the motorcycle culture in Portland. Right. Like if you've ever been out with Arun in Portland, like the guy knows everybody.
He's a celebrity.
Yeah. So I think he just had all the right ingredients to do that well. Question for you guys, right? So like, I think one of the like important responsibilities of a dealer in a kind of utopic world is that they're cultivating and driving the culture locally, as Arun did. Whether you're a Ducati dealership, BMW, it doesn't matter the brand. But I understand how hard that is when, especially when the business isn't performing optimally, right?
Yep.
So how do you guys think about it? Do you feel that is a part of the role of the dealer, just kind of fundamentally? Or do you feel like that's kind of asking too much of a dealership, and that culture kind of needs to exist some other way, somehow?
At my shop, I had an independent shop in Gulfport, Mississippi, and it was a really cool place. All of the displays, the helmet, right? Everything was handmade and really cool. And we had the culture. We started off as like a vintage shop. My dad's always been into doing concours level restorations of bikes. And so our culture sort of started there. And we became successful by being sort of this quick service shop, like anything up to engine builds we would do. And the idea was that it was quick and transparent, and the communication was great. We did a ton of, vintage shows and meetups and, displaying, vintage bikes at coffee shops and stuff like that in town. But I can tell you this, that culture in the community, they talk to each other, and trust is so major. Mm-hmm. Like, we had the cool vibe and everything, but if these customers would come and they weren't getting the level of service and work that they expected, they would start talking and they would start leaving. Mm-hmm. So that was always our number one thing. Was the thing that I would tell all of my guys that were working for me at the time was, we've all been on the other side of the counter. So let's make sure that you're providing the experience that you would expect. And if something doesn't make sense, like, you have the autonomy to say, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, this guy's bike has been here. We've been trying to diagnose this issue. Like, he's in it for 8 hours or whatever. Like, it doesn't make sense to charge this guy probably half of the value of his motorcycle. Like, let's talk about this and make the right decision so that this guy has the best experience, and we might lose some on this one, but this guy's going to go tell everybody at his next meetup how great we were in taking care of him. And it's not to say that we were pushovers and we got, you know, screwed over by customers trying to take advantage of us. The whole point was we've been in their shoes. We want to be treated the way that we would expect to be treated.
I want to piggyback on that with not just the treat them right when they're coming into service, but we have to be, and I think this is the conversation that we started having when we were in Anaheim. The dealership's responsibility is not just to sell the product. The dealership's responsibility is to give the customer the excuse to play with the product. And so we have to build the community meetups. We have to do the track days. We have to do the things that ultimately is just creating the lifestyle that somebody wants to join into. Like my dad bought a Harley when I was a kid, and he bought it because he worked too much. He hated going home to me and my annoying ass brother.
It's not true.
I mean, he's a great guy. No, but like, you know, he had a job that wasn't providing the joy and excitement that he wanted to, and he needed a friend group and a purpose. And he had, just like every other guy that bought a Harley at the same time, had a midlife crisis and said, I'm going to buy a Harley. And a Harley wasn't about buying the product. It was about buying a community that suddenly you're a part of. And so I think that because our products aren't necessary, nobody needs to own a motorcycle. We have a responsibility of giving not just a product at a price point, but we have a responsibility of giving a lifestyle that goes along with that product. Now, I think that COVID kind of screwed that up. I think our industry was already having some issues with this. There were rock stars like Arun. There was, you know, when my brother and I were running this store, we were in it every day, all day. We lived and breathed the events that happened in this store, and that's what kept the thing going. But it was still hard. It's still hard to do the basics, to keep the doors open, because it's a small margin business. But in COVID, we were going in at a time when the industry wasn't actually doing that good. Like overall, nationally, the industry was kind of suffering, and COVID ended up being this incredible, like, breath of fresh air. Suddenly the demand was high, the supply was low, everybody's making money, and you could run a store with a skeleton crew, and you could print money out of it. And then when all that switched, when we went from high demand, low supply to high supply, low demand, obviously we have to pivot in that. But now we're also running it with half the staff. We had 16 employees when I sold this dealership in 2019. There's 7, 8 downstairs right now. For them to be able to sell the same amount of units, to do a similar amount of repair orders, like they can't do that job, the basics of the job, plus the experiential components of the job that are necessary to make it happen, because it's just too hard to keep it going right now. There's not enough money to go around to hire the right amount of staff to make it happen. There's not enough opportunity like in the space. So I think as an industry, we're in a really, really tough spot. And we have ideas for how it can improve. I think a lot of it comes with process improvements and administrative automation and stuff that we're building for the lab here. But I actually want to bring this as a question back to you. I'll turn this back on you now, asking us questions on the podcast. What the hell are you doing? Back to you, though. We talked, I don't know, was it March? The March we saw
it was
you?
back in January.
It was Anaheim. That was in January. AIM was in January. We're talking in January, and we're talking about MotoCorsa, talking about the experience went away. I miss my dealership like it was before. How does that happen again? How do we get that back? And you know, we had very fun, great conversation, especially as drinks start going down, they get even better conversations. But it really, I think, to see you then make the move into the Bikeshed was like, yes, like that is exactly what I believe it needs to be. To be honest, and I'll get to question here. I believe the Bikeshed is the best example of what a dealership needs to be, but they're not dealerships. And I truly believe that dealerships need to be community hubs that happen to sell motorcycles. And if you look at the shops who were service first, like a dealership that was a group of racers who were building their own bikes that then got a deal with, you know, Tucker Rocky and started getting parts cheap so they could race more, which turned into getting an OEM, which turned into a dealership. And that dealership has a culture, as a community. It pulls people in. It's got its own identity. And those stores do awesome. They do awesome when the market's good, and they do awesome when the market's slow because their service still supports it. And so I think that, like, there's something to what you guys are doing. You create the passion and the lifestyle. And what's your tagline? The tagline of Bikeshed is like, for people who love motorcycles and people who love motorcycles. Is that it?
That's one of them, yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
It's like, that's so true. Like, cool, I don't have to be a motorcyclist, but suddenly I can be cool around motorcycles. And then I go, well, then why doesn't Bikeshed sell motorcycles? Like, just like you sell like the like first hit of a drug, and you're like, hey, look at this drug, it's really good. And you're like, you can't get it here though. So it's just. So you went into what I think dealerships should be. Why? How? What does it look like? What are you going to be doing there?
Yeah. Well, kudos to Dutch and Vicky and the whole team that have developed this Bikeshed concept. Maybe for people that aren't super familiar with Bikeshed, the long story short, I alluded to it earlier, is Bikeshed starts as a blog. It's a blog about just one motorcycle when it starts, Dutch and this Sport Classic. People get excited about it. They sort of start sending him photos of their bikes, and he starts featuring those. Fast forward a few years, and like, you know, why don't we have a show? And so they do their first Bikeshed show in London, where it's all volunteers, not even a business at this point. We're gonna get together and we're gonna do a bike show, which is the second iteration of them, what I would describe as them creating space for culture to thrive. So they do the show for a few years, and like, man, wouldn't it be great? This is only for a couple of days a year. Like, wouldn't it be great if this existed year round? Like a place where I could go as a motorcyclist or a non-motorcyclist and experience motorcycle culture and feel welcome and all those things, right? Because there are places where you could experience culture, but no one feels welcome in those places except for the initiated, if you will, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That was kind of, they created these things out of what they felt was something that didn't exist for people like them. And then ultimately
motorcycle safe space.
Yeah. I mean, it's ultimately they create LA, and I think what we do better than anybody, is we lower the barrier of entry, right? I think that's such a big challenge with the motorcycle industry and motorcycle dealerships is no matter how welcoming we try to be, or how welcoming dealerships try to be, they're scary places for people to walk into. And I think when you're close to it, you forget that, right? That like to cross the threshold of the front door of a Harley Davidson dealership for the first time, if you're new to motorcycling, it's got there's so much fear involved, right? You're like, and imagine you don't even have a license, and you're like, I'm going to go into this place where I'm probably going to be judged. Someone's going to try to hard sell me a motorcycle. I'll be taken advantage of. I don't fit in, all the things, right? And I think Bikeshed is this unique place where you could walk in for a coffee or a burger and know nothing about motorcycling except for think it's kind of cool. And then you're sitting at the bar and there's a Harley guy on one side of you and a Ducati guy on the other side of you. And you're like, they look exactly how you envision they're going to look, you know, but you're like, but man, he was so nice. And we got to have this great conversation, and he told me about all these incredible experiences he had. And I think what drew me to Bikeshed was this idea that I don't know that Bikeshed is going to solve all of, you know, the motorcycle industry's problems, but I do think that it provides a solution to a problem that the motorcycle industry has, which is, you know, create space for culture to thrive and lower the barrier of entry. So like, if I were to put it like super simply, continue to make motorcycling cool and remove the barrier to get into it. And I think that, motorcycling will always be inherently cool, but, we need to drive it. It needs to cross over into other parts of popular culture. And I think Bikeshed's positioned to do that, not just with our spaces, but the content we create, the events we do, and as we grow, I mean, the vision is to have a bike shed in every major cultural destination in the world. And so now you've got a place to go watch MotoGP and have a burger and, hang out with your buddies and go to every weekend is essentially a bike show. You walk into roll into Bikeshed and there's all kinds of cool bikes on display. And it's a place that is unique in that, one of the lines for Bikeshed is this idea of common ground. Mm-hmm. I think anyone who's been riding bikes for a long time can identify with this, which is this idea that no matter who you are, where you come from, how much money you have or don't have, you can connect with someone over this thing we love that is motorcycling. And we've all experienced it at a gas station or on the side of the road or at an event where you have under no other circumstances would we be having a conversation. You got a doctor and a 16-year-old kid who's, sweeping floors in the back of your shop. But they both ride motorcycles and they can nerd out on this for hours on end, right? It's common ground. And I think that Bikeshed really tries to embrace that and support that, which is great. It's sometimes harder than you'd think it would be, because I think our world that is motorcycling can sometimes create division in ways that's kind of silly. It's I think it's akin to if you've ever lived in New York. New York is very much like a mosaic, it retains all these little pockets of culture, depending on what neighborhood you're in. But when shit gets real, New Yorkers are New Yorkers and they all bond together, right? Whatever problem you had with your neighbor yesterday is not a problem when, it's about New Yorkers, right? So I think motorcycle culture can be that way too. Sport bike guys talk shit about cruiser guys and touring guys talk shit about chopper guys, and chopper guys want nothing to do with new motorcycles, and on and on and on and on. But at the end of the day, we're all pretty connected by this thing that is motorcycling. And honestly, I wish we would all lock arms more to drive this thing forward. So those are the conversations.
Because at this point, like you were talking about New York, I think that shit has gotten real, and the industry needs to understand that we're not competing with the dealer down the street, or if I'm Mr. OEM, I'm not competing with this other OEM. We're competing with other industries.
Other ways to spend your money.
If we don't make it, I don't know if it has to become more appealing. Like I said before, I think that bikes are cool enough and they sell themselves. We just need to make sure that we're not screwing up the experience. Yeah. That we make it easy to live in this industry.
That comment also brings up the most recent thing that I've seen in a marketing push, which is for lack of better words, Ragebait that Indian has been creating against Harley recently. And man, it's I believe the same thing that you do, that we are all motorcyclists, and we're going to have our preferences for what we ride and what we believe in and all those kind of things. But still we can connect over those things. And I feel like the industry for a while has been sure, we've got our motorcycles better than yours thing and a little bit of competition, but we all lock arms. But man, this stuff that's been coming out in social media, the campaign that Indian's been on recently of clearly paying influencers in ways that just really bash Harley, and it's just it's a different approach. It makes me feel ill, but if the purpose of marketing is to get clicks and get eyeballs, Indian's doing it. They have the amount of accounts that I've seen this on that have nothing to do with power sports, where they're talking about how Harley's woke and terrible and not built in the U.S. and also they're it is the same angry vitriol crap that we see in politics, and you're like, oh my God, please don't bring that to motorcycling. But people outside of our industry are talking about these brands right now. And so like, we can't not talk about, the marketing guy of brands in this space. What is happening right now? What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, maybe we should, for anyone that hasn't seen it, because I think sometimes we in the industry also are so close to something that we think that everyone in the world also is aware of what's happening. But if you haven't seen what's happening, allegedly, and there's a few articles if you Google it on this, Indian has come after Harley Davidson with what feels very much like a political campaign.
Yeah, it does.
You know, it's and I think the agency that they hired a few months ago under their new CEO, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of specialists in that type of marketing or communications, if you will. And so they allegedly paid a bunch of influencers to come after Harley Davidson for their alleged commitment to things like DEI and offshore production manufacturing globally, which is just kind of they're basically creating these little nuggets of propaganda around ideas that they believe will piss off Harley Davidson's base, with the assumption that Harley Davidson's base leans pretty heavily right. And at the same time, they're also explicitly posting content that just straight up bashes Harley Davidson's new leadership, and so on and so forth. So I don't know. What was the question? How do I feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, it feels, for lack of a better word, icky. Icky sounds like the right word. But the first thing that I saw of this wasn't actually this particular campaign. This was a couple months ago, right when Mike Kennedy, the new CEO of Indian, right when Indian had split from Polaris. Yep. Mike Kennedy took over, and he and some of the Indian team, who I know a lot of the guys from my work with Polaris when they were there, those guys rode cross country to Sturgis. And what was interesting to me is that I didn't see that on the accounts that are motorcyclists. I saw that on like random accounts, like on influencer accounts that were not even motorcycle adjacent. I was like, what? Why is this, like this news account that I follow that is talking about how the CEO of Indian Motorcycles is riding cross country, and it was actually like, it was easy enough to recognize because we are so close to it to be like, that's not normal that's happening. That's got to be paid. But it wasn't bashing anybody. It was actually like, oh, sweet. Like, that's a cool way of coming out and saying our leadership is literally riding across the country with the entire new leadership team to show that they really love this stuff. And so that was promoting themselves and not taking the low road, which felt like of bashing the hell out of their competition. But that's very recently.
Yeah, and I think it's not just that, like, because there's a lot of rhetoric online right now. Like, I actually don't have any problem with like friendly competition in advertising and marketing. If Indian is taking, if Indian's taking shots at Harley Davidson because they just took the top of the podium at Road America with King of the Baggers, I think that's fair game. Right. But it's the way in which they've done it and the messaging that they're communicating doesn't seem at all about the merits of the company or the merits of their own company. It's all just like politics, which is ironic because a lot of their message is that Harley is too caught up in politics, which is like, there's so much irony in this campaign, if you want to call it a campaign. Some of the stuff that probably rubs me the wrong way is like the idea that they're leveraging right-leaning influencers that have nothing to do with motorcycles. It's kind of like I would it's kind of like, you know how like you and your brother, right? You guys, I'm sure throughout your lives fought and had problems and whatever.
Yeah, compete.
Totally
and all
fine.
those things.
You can beat your brother up, all those things. But someone who you don't know coming in and saying like talking shit about your brother, I'm sure you're like, hey man, this is my family.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of how I feel about motorcycle industry is like you're inviting like these outsiders in to try to push forward a message, and these people don't give a shit about you, and they don't give a shit about motorcycling.
Yeah. Everything they're talking about, nothing has to do with motorcycles.
It doesn't. It has to do with like how they feel the structure of the company doesn't work right. It's like, what?
Yeah, or the leadership doesn't have enough credibility in the space, and
they don't have the credibility in this space. How can they like? They don't know anything about this. Yeah, I mean,
I think that the thing that puzzles me is like I try to look at it objectively as well, but the thing that puzzles me is I'm like, to what Indian has a very clear business model in the resurrection of Indian over the last, what has it been, 15, 20 years, and that's how can we pluck off market share from Harley Davidson? Like, 1% is a huge deal to them and relatively insignificant to Harley Davidson. Over time, obviously, that can become a problem, but they have no other strategy in their business plan, in their marketing strategy, than pluck off market share from Harley Davidson. Okay, cool. I don't understand how, like, they're not saying we have a superior product. They're not saying that, like, well, they continuously talk about how they're the oldest American brand, even though they took like half a century off. But I guess it's just not like, they're not trying to lift something up or make something desirable. They're just trying to drag the other one down, which is like,
that feels different.
The worst offender of anything that's happened in the motorcycle industry, I think, in a long time. And I think it's unfortunate. And I don't think that they need to do that. And I honestly don't, depends on what their goals are. It's hard for me to understand what their goal and objective is in this whole thing. Because if
their goal and objective is being part of the conversation being about Indian motorcycles, they're doing it. I mean, they're getting more eyeballs for our entire industry than I think before. These are huge influencers, MMA fighters who are like saying some real terrible, mean shit about a brand that they are so disconnected and unrelated to. But those guys have such a following that people worship the words that they say. And if they say Harley is woke and terrible and not American and they're the worst ever. Oh, by the way, I ride an Indian. Like, yeah, that is going to get more, 3% of the population ride a motorcycle. A hell of a lot more people watch MMA, or a hell of a lot more people are, it's a much bigger group that's right leaning, that's going to jump right on that bandwagon. And it just feels like okay, if you paid a marketing company to get you eyeballs, to get conversations going, to have people talking about Indian all across the country, they did it. I mean, they have successfully done it. It's just
But the question is, like,
politics turned into what
I think that it's a broad. I mean, it's obviously so much broader than just motorcycles. Like, I don't know about y'all, I see it all the time on social media now, where I genuinely think people are posting things that they know are wrong in order to get the comments that are saying, nope, actually, nope, that's wrong, and here's why. Like, messing up just like one thing. Like I saw the Lewis Hamilton riding in on the new Ducati Centrale or whatever it's called, their new limited edition, whatever. Like the post said, priceless, one of one. It's like, I mean, just a tiny bit of research will tell you that that's not the case, but the comments are full of, well, it's not priceless. It's going to cost $100 and whatever $1,000, and there's actually this many that are being made. So it's like little things like that it's like, it is literally all about,
it's just like social
comments
engineering.
And yes.
So
yeah, I mean, fundamentally, I don't know, man. I think, yes, are people talking about it, and it's driving maybe awareness of or relevant cultural relevance for Indian, maybe, but I don't know. I'm not necessarily a believer that like all PR is good PR, and I think that it has the potential, again, depending on what their objective is. I just think it has the potential to really not end well for them. I think Harley Davidson is an incredibly powerful brand, and there's so much irony in what the messages that they're trying to convey. It's like this whole like anti-American thing, right? Is like absolutely insane. Like you're talking about the most iconic American company in the world. And again, I'm not, by the way, I don't work for Harley Davidson anymore. I'm not, this isn't like, I'm just stating the facts here, right? And they're a company that's constantly over the years trying to figure out how to continue on with this great American legacy. But when you bash them and try to bring them down, think about all the dealers in the country that are American and employ 50 to 100. I mean, these are big dealerships, right?
Yeah.
They employ hundreds of people. Think about all of the aftermarket that is employed because Harley Davidson has created and continues to create these motorcycles. Think about Sturgis alone, like an entire geography is funded because of this brand.
They didn't even build them there. Just another spot on the map because of that brand existing.
Yeah, and if you've never been to Sturgis, like don't kid yourself. It is a Harley event. 98% of the motorcycles there are going to be Harleys. So I think that, you know, that's just one of the things that just feels like ironic about it. Is like, okay, you're going to try to tear down an great American company with the idea that you're promoting fundamental American ideals, and at the same time, you're literally tearing down the livelihoods of Americans all across the country. Like that's your goal. What are you doing? You know, and then you can just kind of go down the list of the attacks and the allegation. You think Harley really is spending that much time thinking about DEI at a time where they're trying to save their company?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that.
Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, this was a conversation that was even like being brought up a year, 2 years ago. It was like we're just like airing this again. This isn't even relevant right now.
Yeah, I lived through it. I lived through it. There's one of my, if I ever write a book, I'll talk about how I worked for the apparently most woke and least woke company in the world in history, right? Like on any given day, we were the least woke company from the left, and on the same day, we're the most woke company on the right. Like it was, and the irony of it was like, we were just focused on trying to like grow the business, support the community, you know, like do this thing that we love. And there's so many good people, man. The stories are just endless of like second, third generation Harley people that have worked for the company or work in the factory, or the dealers, man, like the dealers in this country, the Harley dealers that have been around for generations. And it's sad that we're getting lost in a narrative that is it's like, for a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with driving motorcycle culture forward. And it's preying on the idea of hate and division. And it's just unfortunate. And I don't, that's not a political, that has zero political point of view on my side. It's just unfortunate that this thing that gives us so much positivity and has brought so many people together is being kind of wedged apart for reasons that have nothing to do with why we do this.
Yeah. So I'm assuming then I shouldn't expect a Bikeshed campaign about how Deus Ex Machina is woke. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
No. In fact, that's a good example where Bikeshed is. We have carried and would welcome Deus into the shop. I think we still carry it in London. Like we're very much of the spirit of like, how do we just support? We believe in the idea of like, let's just support. We need to support the local bike builders. We need to support the OEMs. We need to try to fill a gap that I think's been created. You know, think about when you and I were at Ducati. Think about how many motorcycle magazines there were in the United States alone, and then you think about what exists today. It's like a shell of what used to be Cycle World. And that's not taking shots at Cycle World, but like they're all gone. I mean, there used to be dozens of well-read publications. So like, who's promoting the culture? You know, like where are you getting your information? And what does exist today is so unfortunately tainted by those companies kind of contracting and contracting and contracting so much that they're just trying to get some ad revenue, that it completely screws the whole experience on the sites that still exist today, right? Like you go and it's just ad after ad after ad,
Yeah.
and then you finally get to a regurgitated press release. And it's and again, I'm not, my intent is not to throw shade at those publications, but I think we've lost, it's become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy as the industry has slid a little bit. It's sort of the same thing in a different way in a dealership, right? You have less resources to invest. You can't hire the right people, can't have enough people. You're delivering a lesser experience to the consumer. You know you're delivering a lesser experience to the consumer, yet we can't crack that riddle, I think is a bit of something we got to get a lot of people together thinking about how we solve for that. And at Bikeshed, again, it's a lofty ambition, but we just want to be a part of that story. We just want to be a part of like something that pulls people together and supports folks. Like we hear every time we do these shows, some guy who only needs to sell like 2 bikes a year to make a modest living sells those bikes to some customer, right? Like last year, there was a guy who wasn't even a professional bike builder, builds his first bike for Bikeshed, brings it to the show, brings it to the show. He gets a call like a month later from supposedly Brad Pitt's people. And he's like, he literally like hangs up on them, I think. and he's just like a regular guy from somewhere in England. And sure enough, Brad Pitt buys this guy's motorcycle because he was able to build it for the show. We were able to show it. He saw it on social media. This guy's like changed his life. Like those small things, I think, that's what we're about. Is just like how do we support this thing we love? And I want to have more and more dialogue, and I think the dialogue we're having and others, like I said, we were just in Bologna talking to those guys, is about how do we come together and support the broader mission or goal, because independently it's becoming more and more and more difficult, right? Like
it is. Yeah, I think with the Bikeshed, it was a similar thing with my shop. Bikeshed and I was independent. Like we had the luxury of like being ourselves and focusing on doing whatever is most important for the customer and the community. And this deal that's going on with Indian and Harley, like that's definitely public facing, and so like it's getting attention, but it's not too dissimilar from what goes on behind closed doors with the OEMs. Like we talk with different OEMs all the time about here's what it would take to make this dealerships across the country so much better, infinitely better. And almost inevitably, every OEM that we talk to, we come to a roadblock where they're not willing to invest in these ideas because it will also help other OEMs that are in said dealership. Whenever we were doing the turnaround project on Moto Giulia here, and like we needed major help and support from OEMs, like what was their response? Okay, we'll help you. You have to drop this other line. And it's like come on, like that's what it's all about. Like tearing down another OEM. Like, don't you believe in your product? Like, what does it matter if there's another brand sitting right next to it? So like you just come to this gridlock where we can't get better as dealerships because the OE, all they care about is, I don't want that other brand, profiting or getting better off of what I'm investing in, rather than just making the whole experience better.
So you have a situation like Bikeshed where you guys are brand agnostic. You don't sell product, so you don't have to worry about that. Is that part of the ethos of Bikeshed and always moving forward, where like you don't actually sell a brand or support a brand, or is that changing? Or, I mean, is there some future vision that you or Bikeshed see or can even talk about that combines these ideas, that you not only bring the community into motorcycling, but you provide the motorcycles to the community?
Yeah, I mean, the way we see it, and we can unpack a little bit of some kind of like inside baseball politics of dealers and OEMs through this, but the way we see it is, take Los Angeles as an example. If Bikeshed can be a part of the cultural ecosystem, right? Think about it like a hub and spoke model, where people go to hang out on weekends and have a burger and do the things you can't do at a dealership, right? How can we then like push people out to those dealerships and work together with all of the dealerships in the local community to just grow this thing, right? So how can we support without becoming we're not going to sell motorcycles. I don't see that in our future, but we have OEMs and we have partners that do demo rides out of our place on the weekends, right? So, because why not? Or if you're, Harley's got a great advantage, I think, on a lot of folks in cultivating new riders with their riding academies, right?
Yeah.
So if someone's walking, we're getting, I don't know, I think it's like 3,000-4,000 people through the door every week, of which let's assume 60% of them are non-motorcyclists. They come in, they get a taste of the drug. It's cool. They feel welcome now. What's the next step? Like, let's get them on a motorcycle, right?
Yeah.
So we're definitely talking and thinking about those things. And I think where it becomes complicated, which I think we keep circling back to this one challenge of our time right now, is there's only so much time and only so much resources, right? So if you're a dealer, I won't name names, but like, we definitely had lots of conversations like, yeah, but I don't have anybody I can send down there to do demos, or actually similar type of thing, but the other way that you're describing OEMs. We're like, yeah, but then I'll be supporting this other dealer because they'll do a demo at your event, but they live over here, so they're going to buy a bike over here, right? It's just a lot of that dialogue. I would say the dialogue that you're describing, because you're looking at it from the dealer perspective, talking to the OEMs. I've sat in so many conversations where it goes the other way, where you're like,
oh yeah,
let's just ban guys. Like, if there's 3 Harley dealers or 3 Ducati dealers in a market, like, let's figure out how we support the growth of Ducati in that market. And then based on the merits and culture of your dealership, you're going to sell bikes, right?
Yes.
So just do a great job of doing that. But it becomes so competitive and cutthroat that no one wants to invest in anything that they think might support someone else's business, down the road. And then there's like all the territory sort of stuff that you guys know well. It's like, well, I'm the only dealer that can do it in that territory, and I don't want to do it. So then no one does it.
Yeah, you just have to locked up. Yeah.
So I don't know. Fundamentally, I empathize and I understand a lot of the resource challenges that exist throughout the industry. But I think the idea that we all just kind of put our walls up and don't work together and don't, try to drive culture forward is not going to be the solution. We didn't touch, you touched on this earlier, but culture is not only about driving desirability of motorcycling and welcoming people into it. It's also keeping people in the sport.
Yeah.
Harley, one of the things that is awesome at Harley is they've got great data on everything. And I won't say things that, are probably intended to be confidential, but like, it would blow your mind how many people leave the sport of motorcycling or leave Harley Davidson and the sport entirely just because they don't have anyone to ride with, or they didn't go on a ride for the last 6 months.
Yeah, completely.
Or they didn't go to a bike show, But we also had the data that supported they just needed to do that one good ride a year, or they just needed to have a couple of cool events to go to, and then they stay in it and they keep buying bikes, right? Yep. So it's not just about acquiring new riders. It's how do we keep the ones that are here in the ecosystem? And those guys, by the way, are hands down the best marketing engine the motorcycle industry has, is existing riders telling their sons, daughters, friends, neighbors that this is the greatest thing on the planet.
Yep.
Pound for pound, I would invest everything in the community being your advocacy engine for driving motorcycle culture forward.
Yeah, that's the marketing. The marketing is the customer base. It's the same.
Take care of them and let them do the rest.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I want to get back to just like the last piece of growth, right? How do we grow? What's growing? At Bikeshed, you guys are actively growing right now, right? LA opened 4 years ago. Is that right? Started in London. LA was 4 years ago. And then you guys are doing Dubai next. Is that right? Or Bikeshed
Dubai is Dubai is supposed to be next. It's been put on hold relative to, the things that are happening in that part of the world right now. We are actively thinking about, so Bikeshed's interesting because from a business perspective, it's there's an opportunity to diversify the revenue streams across many different areas of the business. So if you think even just about the brick and mortar space, yes, there's F&B, which is a significant portion of the business, but within our space, there's a retail store that sells both Bikeshed product as well as other brands' products. There's a barbershop, there's a tattoo shop, and then we've used both in London and LA, we sell the space for events. So there's always big events. There's an incredible event space in the location in LA, and there's good event space in London. It's just not as big, so it can't accommodate as much. But that's just in the physical spaces. And then we think about the growth of the business outside of that. Membership is a part of what we do. So up until a few weeks ago, membership was really about being local. Like if you were in LA, you could become a member. You had different member benefits, being invited to events, various kind of discounts and that kind of stuff. But then there's a private members lounge, like a speakeasy in the back of that one. So that's where we shot the podcast, actually. And so it's beautiful, man. It's like private bar, fireplace, tables, and it's accessible only by key card if you're a member. And you can host your birthday party there or whatever. And so the challenge with that is, yes, it's interesting and it's cool, but it's only locked into if you live close to LA or London. So what we launched a couple of weeks ago is our global membership program, and a mobile app that goes with it, where the whole idea is like, how do we tell stories via content, cultivate community via kind of social networking groups, all that kind of stuff, and create experiences and events that now can be accessible no matter where you are in the world. So, we've got a pretty great social following around the world, and now, those folks can feel connected to Bikeshed, become members at a much lesser rate than a physical membership is. So that's a part of the business that we're thinking about. Media, like I said, I think that there's storytelling there's a gap there for our industry in general, and that's a place where it's a part of who we are. So we need to step that up and then figure out how that either fuels the rest of the business or becomes its own, revenue generator in and of itself. But then coming back around to the physical locations, growth is top of mind. How do we have one of these in every, cultural destination in the world? Specifically, we're thinking about places that also have MotoGP races. As Americans, we take it for granted. Like any sport we want to watch, any city in this country, you can watch at a sports bar or bar any weekend, any day, right? Yeah. But where do you go to watch motorcycle racing?
Right.
Yep. And Formula One now is starting to cross over into pop culture, and you can probably see it more places. But, we want to be that destination that year round you can come here, watch races. We work with that's another thing we're thinking about. It's like, how do we work with entities like MotoGP and local racetracks? So we had some good discussion with the CEO of Silverstone while I was there a couple of weeks ago about this is the kind of motorcycle culturing hub in your town. How do we work together to get all of our fans and our members to the race? So we're thinking about all that. I think the growth of the physical spaces is incredibly capital intensive, as I'm sure you can relate to. And there's no shortage of enthusiasm, people around the world that want to open Bikeshed locations in their town. But Dutch and Vicky have kind of wrestled with what's the right model for that, and tried to stay away from franchising, just so that we don't, lose control of the brand and everything that they've worked so hard to create. So it's a part of the future for sure, but it's going to take a lot of capital to do it at scale, and that's a part of what we're working on right now.
That's great. I mean, look, like I said before, I think our industry doesn't succeed unless there is a lifestyle hub. And I have consistently thought that the lifestyle hub is the dealership. But there are dealerships who can't pull that off. And if that's not possible, if they can't do it, there's got to be a Bikeshed, or there's got to be I love that there's a digital version of this now. And there's got to be a way that as a dealer, I can say, hey, this is the group that you're going to hang out with. This is the membership you're going to join that gives you an excuse. And I don't even need to financially benefit from that. I benefit because they're still riding. Like that's the benefit of a dealer. I keep my customers riding because now they have a club to hang out with, and they'll buy from me when it comes around to it.
Exactly. I mean, we come back to that question we were talking about earlier, is like, I don't know that every dealer should be a cultural hub. I think that from a brand perspective, we always feel that way, but it's a lot to operate a dealership, right? And it's complex, and it's hard, and it's hard to make investments in things that you can't see like an immediate short-term return on. So, why couldn't we work together in all of these local markets where you're like, whatever, you sold a Panigale this week and you're like, hey, there's a Italian bike weekend at Bikeshed this weekend. You should go check it out. And, oh, by the way, they've got a full calendar of track days at our local track. If we work as partners in that, you sort of get all the benefits without having to carry that lift as an individual dealer. But that's a riddle we got to solve together, boys, because again, like
there's a riddle with you.
This competitive nature that's like, we've even had conversations, honestly, where dealers are like, well, they're it's a conflict of interest. They're a competitor to us. I'm like, in what world? Like, in what world is a place where like Bikeshed a competitor to a local, XYZ
we're selling
brand
hamburgers and t-shirts. We're not even
I feel like that would be like
motorcycles.
a music store having beef with the Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah, it's a really good analysis there.
You can't make that stuff
like
up,
the
right?
same thing. Yeah. Oh man. Well, look, we have taken so much of your time. This has been a great podcast. It's been great catching up, and I know having these conversations makes me desperately want to fly to LA and check out the Bikeshed. So, I think
you got to go to the London location too, man. It's interesting because LA is like this modern interpretation of it. It's still very kind of rooted in the same ingredients, but London feels like it's kind of how you described your shop, Danny. It's like it feels very much like you can smell the beer and you feel the history and all of that. So both locations are pretty amazing, and definitely recommend you go check them out.
Dude, that's great,
Awesome.
man. Well, thank you again. Thanks for being on the show, man. And we'll hopefully keep this conversation going.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This is super fun, and we'll crack this thing.
Yes.
Somehow, some way.
Everybody listening, look out for the next Shed Talk episode. It's going to be really good, I'm sure.
All right, thanks, boys.
Thanks, guys.